the agenda, and today we are all here to talk about a very exciting topic that is the new consent mechanism, that it's all about like protecting the user privacy, about what needs to be changed in how we manage consent, cookies, people, data, privacy stuff. Because as you may guess, as you may know, if you are based in Europe or not, this is irrelevant, because in the Tech Vision is mentioned in the Web 3.0 sessions that Ibrahim hosted, and all the Insights team is mentioned that Greenpeace aims to champion in the nonprofit world to be on the edge or to be the champion of protection of user data privacy, because that's what we owe to the users. So what we are going to show today is not only what we are obliged to do from a legal point of view, but also from a moral, ethical, and social point of view. And that's as much as I'm going to say today. Passing it over to Julia.
Your key points again. Let me share my screen with you. Also, we can make this as a conversation. So if there's anything that you want to ask during the presentation, please go ahead, unmute yourself. All right, so this year we had this task of investigating the changes to GDPR privacy policy, but also in the light of what Luca said, of what's being recommended by the Tech Vision and by other Greenpeace initiatives. And we wanted to review the consent mechanism in P4 and understand if there was anything that we wanted to change. So to give a background, we did that review the last time in 2019, because back then we discovered that we were only tracking a very small percentage of the traffic. I think it was like up to 5%, because we were only using one way of managing consent through the enforced cookies policy. So this is a setting on the Planet 4 analytics settings that was actually preventing Google Tag Manager from being loaded on the page unless the user gave consent. So we wanted to find other ways that we could gather the data that we need for our analysis purposes. And back then, we also decided to implement some first-party cookies on Planet 4 that would allow us to manage the user consent from Google Tag Manager itself. So using these cookies, we would understand what were the user preferences, and then we would allow or block certain tags from running. But we also decided back then that we were going to use Google Analytics from the very first start, as soon as the user landed on the site. So we did that based on a review of an external legal firm, and we understood back then that the risk was not high for us. So that's what we decided. So we had Google Analytics cookies being placed on the browser even before the user gave consent. And I think this is the major point that we were looking for changing right now, because through our readings and through our investigations, we understood that the analytics cookies could not be considered as necessary cookies any longer. So we really needed to have the user, our supporters' permission for that. So that said, there was a few things that we needed to review and fix. So receive users' consent before the use of any cookies, except the strictly necessary ones that we understand that are just the first party cookies that we use for Planet 4. And we also needed to provide accurate and specific information about the data that each one of the cookies were tracking. So we also updated the privacy policy and our cookies table list, which was it was not updated, and we also changed the cookies block. Yeah, then there's just this quote that I like to highlight as well from the Web Analytics paper from Ibrahim that says that the organization holds an ethical obligation to its supporters to avoid the unnecessary fingerprinting or profiling of the supporters with third parties, for example, Google or with Facebook, and honor their choice by requiring explicit consent. So based on this process, we came up with an action plan. And we started making a lot of changes on the front end of our cookies block, but also on the back end of how we were going to control consent on the sites. I'll go through this in detail. So the first thing that we did was to improve the cookies block, mainly because the analytics cookies do not fall into the strictly necessary exception. So we need to tell people about them, and we need to have a specific copy for that. So what we changed is that we enabled a new checkbox. So instead of having only 2 categories on the cookies block, we now have a third one. So this is what it looks like on the international website. We have the first-party cookies. We had what we call performance cookies, saying that we're using tracking and analysis tool to ensure the optimization of the site. And we also have the marketing ones related to more Facebook Pixel, OptiMonk, and other tools as such. Let me just show you also how you can enable that. So we have here the, sorry about that. So also this change is not enabled by default. It's something that you need to go into the Planet 4 side and allow it by yourself, because we couldn't run this automatically to everyone, since it also depends of the content. So you can just go here, Planet 4 settings, into your cookies and enable that checkbox. This will instantly open a new checkbox on your privacy page, so where you can edit the content. So since we did that change and we implemented a new checkbox, we also needed to review the entire flow of the users. I hope you can read this, but otherwise this is also in the documentation. So we changed it a bit, the values that the Greenpeace cookie has. So it's important to know that if today you are controlling your tags from Google Tag Manager using this cookies-based solution, as soon as you implement these analytics cookies, these values will change. So you need to make some adjustments. And this is also in the Gitbook documentation that we'll share later. But basically, when the user lands for the first time in Planet 4, we are setting the Greenpeace cookie with value 1. If they gave consent, this value turns to 4, and all tags could be instantly allowed to fire. If they don't give consent, it stays the same, but they also have the option to manually change the cookies preferences. So either disable all of the cookies or allow each one of these categories. And this is important. Right now, it's not such a common behavior because the user needs to go to the privacy page to change the settings. But what we want to do in the future with the design iterations is bringing these settings to inside the cookies box. And we will show you in a while. Second thing is about the consent mode. So we implemented this to help the Planet 4 sites to comply with the latest regulations, but also to facilitate the implementation through Google Tag Manager, because the consent mode can be it is already built into all of the Google tags, but you can also easily implement that to any other third-party tools through Google Tag Manager. And I'm gonna show you in GTM as well. So basically we have 2 JavaScript variables in P4, the analytics storage and the ad storage. And both of those will tell Google Tag Manager which was the user preferences based on what they choose. So we have here the same user stories from the flow before. As soon as the user lands on the website, we have the default consent, which is denied for both analytics and for both ad storage. And then we have all of the other depending on what they choose. So if they just click on the got it button right now, we will send a data layer event and also update these 2 variables. Hope I'm not going too fast. If you have questions, please let me know. So that said, we also needed to update the privacy policy. As I said, we updated the cookies tables. We included what was the type of the category of the cookie that each one was linked to. And we also created the content to distinguish analytics and marketing in the first part. We also disabled the enforced cookies policy from the backend because that was we understood that using the consent mode, we didn't need to block Google Tag Manager from running, because you could basically block all of the tags and just have the plain container there. And also the enforced cookies policy was too strict, because not only the user had to accept the privacy policy, but they also had to visit another page so that Tag Manager could be run. So we decided to disable that function and push forward for using Google's consent mode. And then Meg, do you want to go through the design iterations?
Okay, so what will change with the new design? So currently, if you remember, we have this cookies bar at the bottom of the page, and we wanted to test something different, and we got like good results from the A/B testing. So that's good. So we are going to implement the first iteration in the next couple of weeks, I hope. And the second iteration will come after that. So basically what will change is that instead of having this cookies bar at the bottom, we will have this cookies box on the right-hand side of the screen. And currently you cannot, I mean, we don't have like a prominent button to change the settings. So you have to currently click on the link and you go to the privacy and policy cookies page to change your settings. But what will change is that if users click on this button, it will open the settings directly within that box. So you can see that the first party's cookies are always enabled, and they can check like what cookies they want to store in the site. And they can also decline all cookies from there. And yeah, which will improve the user experience. And for the mobile version, it's pretty much the same. You can also change directly your settings here without going through like the privacy and cookies page. So that's pretty much it. I don't know if you have any questions on the new designs.
So yeah, just to share that we also did the A/B test on the GPI website. So the new box out was the winner version on desktop. We had an increase of the cookies bar click-through rate, but there was a small decrease on the mobile one. So we had minus 9%. So it's still something that we want to see how we want to improve, and we're also collecting ideas for that. But basically, we decided to move forward with the implementation on both devices, especially because we need that design to make sure that we're able to bring the cookie settings inside the same screen. But it's something that we'll be iterating as well. And yeah, as Meg showed, also the design iterations here. So just one thing about the consent mode. I'm going to go through the consent mode demo right now of how we can implement this. I don't have the Git book open right now, but I will share with you the documentation later. Basically, here in the analytics settings, you can also enable the consent mode. And you should be aware that enabling this will automatically start affecting your Google's tags in your GTM. So what we recommend is like using your dev sites or your save sites to implement this for the first time. So you test on that, and then you do all of the setup on GTM before moving to the live site. So let me show you how this is working. So basically, when you land on the Planet 4 website for the first time, we will be firing this data layer event, the default consent. And as you can see, we have the ad storage denied and also the analytics storage denied. If we move to the tag assistant, you see that the only tag that was fired was from Google Analytics. the tag will still be fired, but the data won't be saved in your reports, in your views. So if we come here, you see that I don't have anyone on the site at the moment, although the tag is being fired. So basically this data is not being saved here. And then if you go here, let's accept the privacy policy. We have an update consent event here. And as you can see, both ad storage and analytic storage changed to granted. Hopefully we are now tracking my page view here. And if we go to tag assistant, we can see that all of my other tags were fired. So the Hotjar, the Facebook Pixel, the OptiMag, and also some other events. So basically in Tag Manager, there is already, if you go into the Google Analytics built-in, if you go to the Google Analytics tags, you see the built-in variables. So let me show you here. So if we click to edit, advanced settings, consent settings, you see that we already have these built-in consent checks. So all of the events, the page views, I think also Google Ads tags will have that. But you can also add this manually to any other custom tag that you have. So for the same process, you come here, additional consent checks require additional consent for this tag to fire, and then you just add the variables that you want to use. There is also a very easy way to do that for all of your container. So you can come here to your tags, click on the consent overview here. And then you see all of the tags where consent was not configured, and down below all of the custom tags that you have configured, also the Google Analytics built-in. So you can easily just select whatever you want here, the specific tags, of course. Click here and just add for all of them and save this. So these book actions are really helpful for the time that we're gonna implement. So last time that we did was also to capture the data layer variable. So we just created simple custom data layer here to save the value that is either granted or denied. And then we also created a specific custom event trigger. So when the update consent happens and the ad storage is granted, then we can fire these specific tags. So I think that was what you were asking, Marton. For the Google Analytics and other Google products tags, you don't need to add this, but for the custom ones, you can add this type of trigger. So yeah, so I think that's basically my demo. I think I'm not forgetting anything, but in any case, like we have the step-by-step documented on Gitbook showing you how to do that. Let me see. And then back to the presentation. For next steps, on the GPI side, I think you can stop sharing this. On the GPI side, we're gonna roll out the consent mode at the end of this week, and we're gonna test and see what will be the impact on our Google Analytics data. So we still don't know, and we're gonna have an idea of how much that will be. And then we also recommend you to go through the steps that we did. So first, enable the analytics cookies on your Planet 4 settings, revise your privacy policy. And you also don't need to wait for us if you want to go straight forward and implement consent mode. I think it's also something that you can do and work on. So we can share with you the documentation. And also, yeah, just experiment with that. Use your dev sites before going to the live site. And yes, am I missing anything, Luca?
What Marie just said, I just want to make sure that it's clear to everyone that with the current design, there is a concrete possibility that a lot of people do not accept any cookie and just keep browsing our sites without any analytics being recorded. This has to be very clear because, you know, people have to express specific consent to that. And we don't have a design like the one that our Spanish colleague have that really like grays out the rest of the screen and prevents users from consuming the site, which is against one of the guidelines that Julia just showed, right? Whether people accept or not, people should be able to consume our sites. So if you, at some point, if when all this, hopefully in the next few months, will be in place in most of our sites, there may be drops in the amount of insights we collect. What's up?